probably fair to say that the British RPG flagship is being carried by Cubicle 7.
Well, I would say yes.
Because they have, by far, the most iconic science fiction character of all time. I don't care what you Star Wars fans want or Star Trek people think about Captain Kirk and Darth Vader. The Doctor. We win.
Yes, speaking as a doctor, I can only agree with that.
The Doctor. And Cubicle 7 has the Doctor Who role-playing game.
And it just happens to be something of an anniversary for the Doctor. 50 years. 50 years.
50 years that we know of. The man has been alive for the next... for
since
thousands.
the first programme was broadcast.
Yes, exactly.
And no, I don't remember the first programme being broadcast, but I do remember Patrick Troughton. I'm that old.
Yes, he is. And they also have been doing really well in Kickstarter. Another company has been doing really well in Kickstarter with their Cthulhu London box set, which is terrific, absolutely terrific. So I think, I'm not going to say anything else about them because I have already upset enough people with the Doctor is the best kind of thing it is. So I'm just going to let them do their talking.
Yeah, good.
I'm Domimic MacDowall. Hello. I run Cubicle 7.
I'm Andrew Kenrick and I'm Cubicle 7's managing editor.
And I'm John Hodgson and I'm Cubicle 7's art director.
And we're going to talk to you today about all manner of things that we've got in the works, what we're up to at the moment, and we might mention the Kickstarter towards the end, perhaps.
I think we can do that. So one of the things we've been doing this year, I think, is kicking around ideas about what the sort of thing that Cubicle 7 does, and what is it that we're trying to do. There's loads of games companies out there, and what makes us different. What are we trying to do? I mean, I think we've always had a commitment to producing the best quality games that we possibly can, and we put a lot of care and attention to everything that we do, and that's very important to us. I think that it's been a good year for that, really. We've seen, over the last year, we've had a few more lines launching. So we had a Rocket Age and World War Cthulhu, which we'll come back to a little bit. And the third edition of Victoriana, which is... Victoriana is story of Victoriana, kind of quite closely woven with Cubicle 7 itself. It was the first full game that we put together. And also the first thing that we won an Annie Award for as well. So it's something that's very close to our hearts. I think as well with it's been a good year for us with the Doctor Who 50th anniversary, which has been fantastic. And again, our involvement with Doctor Who and the Doctor Who Adventures in Time and Space role-playing game is again just at the core of the Cubicle 7 story. So it's been really nice to have that kind of milestone to take stock about where we are, what we've done, and look at our plans for the future. We've got, speaking of that, we've got the limited edition, which is the first ever hardback rulebook that we've done all in one in one volume for Doctor Who, coming out later this year. Coming out next year. Time goes so quick. And we've got the Doctor by Doctor source books running through at the moment. So we've got third and on the presses at the moment, the third Doctor.
So if you've not seen the Doctor source books, we started them earlier in the year. And each one takes a really close look at the adventures of that Doctor, breaking down every adventure by every episode and giving you really gameable material. But they're really good fan guides as well. And we've had a lot of love for them. Third Doctor's about to come out. Fourth Doctor is not too far behind that, is it?
Nope, that's being looked at the moment. So we're written up through halfway through the 8th Doctor book. So they're all well in hand, and we'll be out to people as soon as we hear the word. So, so that's gone well. One of the other things that we've been doing with we had the Doctor Who card game that came out. Was it 2011, I think? So that's something that we're a part of the business that we're putting a lot of attention into and growing. Doctor Who card game has done fantastically well, so that's been a good sort of thing to follow. We've got our next card games coming up in January, and that's the Hobbit Tales storytelling game. And that's it's hobbits in the inn, in the Green Dragon Inn, basically trying to boast each other. So you're coming up with these like wild tales of things that have happened, and yeah, it's a good fun game.
Yeah. You can play a demo of that down in the trade hall.
Yes.
I mean, the look of it's very distinctive, isn't it? Do you want to
Yeah.
tell us a bit about that?
We kind of put together the look of the cards, and the whole set is of in-world artifacts rather than have a piece of artwork like a magic card where you have a piece of artwork in a frame and then text underneath. We built it up out of layers of like in-world parchments and so on, and sketches in a Hobbit's book, and all the icons on the cards are little in-world artifacts. Like we've got coins and we've got little stones and leaves and things. They all work together to give it a really nice kind of Hobbity feel, hopefully. But yeah, do go and check it out down in the hall, because it's a nice looking game, even if we do say so ourselves.
The first thing you see when you open the box is the beer mats, isn't it?
Yeah, there's beer mats in the
which are used for kind of screens, aren't they?
Yeah.
During play.
I had a lot of fun with that. It's been very good.
Yeah, there's some more on the boarding card games coming next year as well. We'll be announcing those shortly. One of the other new things for next year will be our Lone Wolf adventure game. And it's something that's always concerned me, I think, is how are we getting new blood in, how are we getting new gamers in, and the sort of like I suppose the progression into the hobby. How are we getting new blood? One of the lines that we're aiming at that market, as well as everybody else, is the Lone Wolf adventure game. We want to do something that's very accessible, and then leads you into something that we'll have more advanced rules as well for the more experienced gamers, but just something that you can genuinely hand to somebody, hand to a 12-year-old kid, and they will be able to get it and to run it. So I mean, lots of advice on how you run games and things like that. So yeah, that's I'm a huge Lone Wolf fan. It's great working with Joe Diva on that. So that's something to watch out for next year, and I think something that's we'll be pushing a lot.
I think it was really interesting. We were talking with Joe last night, and he was saying that it's the 30th anniversary coming up of Lone Wolf, and it's really interesting how I think there's a lot of us now who started with those kind of things like Lone Wolf, and now have children of our own and are looking to find things that would give our kids the chance to get into games. I mean, I don't want to make my kids be gamers, but I think both of them would enjoy it. They can't really help it growing up in a house with me drawing monsters all day long, and to have something that I could just leave in their orbit and they could pick up and play if they want to play. I think that we're all kind of driven in that direction. And it's not just going to be a children's game. Like Lone Wolf is enjoyable by adults as well. The original game books. I mean, so there'll be something for more experienced gamers. But I think there's a generation now like us who would like to bring in another generation. And it was interesting. It's 30 years, which of course tallies with the kind of age. That some of us have got 8, 9, 10, 11-year-olds when we started at that age 30 years ago. It's interesting.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think as well that we're looking at new routes for people to find the hobby as well, because it's how do you come across role playing for the first time these days? I think it's quite tough, isn't it? There's we do what we can, and events like this are really important, and providing the sort of like the board game and those sort of entry routes in. There's definitely something to be said for that. But then you come across the huge swathes of online RPing, and these are our people. How do we build the bridges out to them? And I think we've got the advantage of working with Doctor Who and things like that. We've got brands that they're familiar with, that characters that they love and stories they want to be involved with. But it's things like building the bridges out to that, and hooking that in. There's a huge number of role players out there. Factor in online computer game role players. There's a huge amount of people there, and that a lot of them I think accept that that there's something that tabletop role playing when they come across it. It's like, wow, it's got a whole new side of things that you just can't replicate any other way. That social experience, and so. We got our work cut out, but we'll
give it a go. I think you guys came across. I wasn't at it. There was the Doctor Who celebration event.
Yeah.
Because of course we won the this year at the Ennies. We picked up the Best Family Game award for Doctor Who Adventures in Time and Space box set, which was quite a thing for a role-playing game to win it. Because normally it's a kind of cutesy board game, you know, that will win the best family game. And it was like, you know, we picked it up, and I think we really want to build on that.
Yeah.
We know we've got the tools to do it, and to provide a really discrete, a whole package that you can hand to somebody and say, this is it, you know, this is what you can get into. But sorry, what I was going to say about the event at the XL, the Doctor Who celebration, was you guys encountered a lot of people who were not averse to the idea of role playing. They just didn't know how to begin. And if you can hand them something that gives them everything they need, then hey, you know, it could work out.
Yeah, there's a lot of new role players, I think, at that event.
Yeah.
People who were very open to the idea of games, probably quite familiar with concepts of role play and that sort of thing, but just didn't know where to start. Or I think we started a few new traditions, didn't we?
I think so. Yeah, that's something I think as a publisher that's really nice when you know you always feel like you're handing your 11-year-old self their first game. Yeah, that's really special.
It's hard being stood next to Joe Beavers on our stand and not just go, I'm doing this because of you.
Yeah.
Don't want to embarrass the heck out of the guy, but, you know, it's true. You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. You've ruined my life. No.
But we're planning on doing more than just the intro set for Lone Wolf, aren't we?
Oh yeah. There's I mean, what we're looking at building up there is it's the definitive series of source books for the world. Yeah, it's the definitive picture of Magdaman. I can't wait. It's that's going to be great. Now we've got the Kickstarter running at the moment. I don't know how many people have heard of it, but we've got our Call of Cthulhu 1920s British line, Cthulhu Britannica. We've got a London box set that we're kickstarting at the moment. Now that's ending on Thursday, so time is running short. It is a beautiful deluxe. So I've got some images on the laptop, which you won't be able to see, but we've got some beautiful period maps that we've licensed. We've got lots of our own artwork going into it. I mean, the idea was to create the definitive London setting, basically. So as well as that, there's a load of stretch goals that go in there as well. So we've got things like postcards written by a range of gaming luminaries. We've got this. I will leave people out. So huge apologies for this because it is quite an extensive list. But people like Ken Hite, Robin Laws, Graham Davis, Matt Forbeck,
Mark
Gascoigne, Sandy Peterson. Yes, it was great that Sandy's. The original designer of Call of Cthulhu, he's getting involved. That was quite special. So there's those. That's basically they're giving you adventure seeds, adventure ideas, and it's like having all of these people here on hand to give you inspiration for your games. I think that's going to be a really special product. And that one's only available in the Kickstarter as well, so that won't be available after the Kickstarter closes. So get your eBay copies now. We've got the cards from the smoke, with lots of pictures of visual aids, as well as loads of game information on them as well, on things like NPCs and locations and stuff like that. But it's been a fascinating experience running the first Kickstarter. It really is as all-consuming as everybody says. It's quite a thing, isn't it? Yeah. I think we were thinking we'd probably fund. I think we thought the first half of the campaign we thought we would, and then we blew through the target in 7.5 hours, and I think we were in shock for the first week after that.
Yeah, we were saying earlier on, we were watching the sort of numbers go up and go, oh, we funded, and then we're like, oh, we have to do we have to do new graphics, we have to change all the unlocked things, but for a moment you're just sitting there going, oh.
You should never show until that happens, don't you?
Yeah.
It's a massive embarrassment.
You never know.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been fun.
Yeah.
But hard work.
But as a method of funding, it's opened new opportunities, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we wouldn't be able to do the London box sets the way that we do everything else. It's a box set, huge unit price to produce, and just too big a risk to put out through the usual methods. But when I was doing the calculations, if we'd been really lucky, we really pushed it, I think we might, with a good wind behind us, have broken even. It was that kind of non-viability, basically. So it has given us the chance to do it, which is great. It's Call of Cthulhu is a game that we've all played for many years, and it's nice to be able to just do something really special for it. So that's been good. But rather than run through everything, is there anything that you'd like us to talk about, or any questions you have, or anything you'd like to hear? Or...
Yeah, you were talking earlier about the dot sums you're doing for the 50th anniversary issue. A few questions, given that the breakdown seems to be like you go all the episodes and then monsters, etc.
Yeah.
One, what are you going to do with 8?
That is our most asked question today, actually.
Two, with the things you've done before for like 10 and 11, is there a plan to do a new version for them breaking down similarly, or you just using the existing rule books as a template and not doing a special one for them? And three, with there being a Christmas episode coming for them, what's the plan for that?
We can answer all of those
I think
questions.
so. Yes. So start with 8th. I mean, one of the things that when you're committing to, essentially what's for us a big commitment in terms of books that we can do, a capacity, is that we were nervous about committing to so much source material without the scenario stuff. You need the balance really to get a line going. Well, we've got some PDF adventures in track and things like that. So the 8th gave us a perfect opportunity, kind of in the middle of the series, to put some original adventures in the style of the 8th Doctor stuff. And of course, the Day of the Doctor and the Night of the Doctor has given us some excellent material to work with there. So that's what we're doing with 8th. With 10 and 11, that was it's the same approach as we've been doing. Yeah.
So there'll be source books in exactly the same way. They'll be bigger because there's more adventures. In the same way, the 4th Doctor one, which is due after Christmas, is a bigger book. It's 240, I think, 240 pages. The 10th and 11th will be similarly big.
Yeah.
And it's quite nice that at Christmas 11th, Matt Smith wraps up, so it means we can actually work on that as a whole piece. And then
eagerly await our first glimpse of the series. Yeah. No, that was fantastic, wasn't it? We were lucky enough to be at the celebration, so we got to watch that in the big auditorium with everyone. Yeah, that was such a cheer for that, wasn't it?
I think certainly we'll be a way off before we do a 12th Doctor source book. Just because we'll need to wait until he's finished his run, but I imagine we'll be seeing Doctor Who products with Peter Capaldi in some vein in the near future. Well, maybe not near future, in the mid-future. That's a weird.
Yes. Anything else? Anybody? Any lines in particular, or anything else you'd like us to cover, or any questions about anything we've done? Yeah. Keep going.
There's one. Hang on, there's one at the back.
I was asking earlier about the Ring as well, about the future of that, which I really want to do that for. Something I was wondering, you did a lot of talking earlier on about how you've been doing these Doctor Who source books to tie into the 50th anniversary, and that's a lot of us, that's great. I've been surprised that hasn't been more for the Wandering tied in with moderately popular shows and movies that are at the moment for the Hobbit. I know that.
Well, there's movies.
Yeah,
we've just been reading the books.
Yeah.
I know that we licensing things, you can't do a game of those movies. But is there an intention to do more to tie into those, or take advantage of the people, the places that are going to be going in those movies into this year and next year?
I think one of the advantages we had with the Hobbit films coming up was that the initial core set for the One Ring was set, so right there. Our focus, I think, really has been to keep on track really with what we were doing already. I think that there's for the One Ring, our priorities are to keep to finish off the Wilderland area. We've got the Rivendell book in track. The next one's going to be the Darkening of Mirkwood, which is the campaign. Kind of companion book to Heart of the Wild. So we've got that, and then we'll be looking at adding in some more playable cultures. We may be heading south.
So I've not long finished editing Darkname Mirkwood, and if you've seen Heart of the Wild, which is our latest release for the One Ring, so that's the kind of supplement for Mirkwood, isn't it? In Wordland area. Darkname Mirkwood is the massive, I don't know what page count on that is, but it's a big campaign. It's a proper generational campaign as well. You start off as kind of like young woodmen and that sort of thing, having adventures and doing things like that, but it takes it year by year. By the end, you're chieftains or the children of your previous characters, and it's a proper epic, isn't it?
Oh yeah,
There's enough in there to keep you going for a very long time.
And that's one of the things that I love about the One Ring is that the tale of years and the generational thing. I think that's something that brings something quite special to it.
Sorry, if I could be cheeky enough to ask, how far side did you go?
All the way to the bottom?
Yeah.
Actually, no, that's not true.
Discussions about when as well, what kind of you'll stress it in, because obviously the social effort of it,
Yeah.
so that to be the same time that it is placed,
We'll be advancing the timeline generally, I think, with each area that we're expanding sort of incrementally, and then I think we'll see where that takes us to. I mean, there's still a bit of a discussion really about whether we want to move to other books that advance the timeline across the board, or whether we're going to be bringing in more of that sort of campaign format for specific areas and moving that forward. So I think we'll still in planning on that. I think we will see where we are when we hit the south. Thanks.
One is, why do you think that Cthulhu resonates so well with the British Isles? All the sorts of actors in the world, a lot of them turn up in the UK. Secondly, when you think that's going to take you your product development?
That's a good question. I think. Do you think it's got the? I mean, we've got a fairly dark sense of humour, haven't we? I think. Yeah. I think that's in the national character. I think there's.
It is absolutely true that it resonates, because I was surprised this morning that you never quite know what's going to be popular on the stall, and it's Cthulhu stuff always at Dragonmeet, Laundry and Cthulhu Britannica just flying off the stall this morning.
Part of it's kind of, from a gamer point of view, it's because there's a very long tradition in the UK, isn't it, of horror.
Yeah.
Horror stories, kind of going back to the Victorian era.
Yeah.
And also the early days of Games Workshop and publishing.
Yeah.
Is it Green and Pleasant Land and stuff like that?
Well, I think even before then, one of the questions I'm asked a fair amount over in the States is, what's the difference between the American gaming scene and the UK gaming scene? And I had no good answer for the first sort of year or two I was asked that. But I was thinking about it a while, and I think that the way that gaming developed between the two countries is probably at the root of it. Because in America you had D&D's ascendancy was fast and fairly complete, really, wasn't it? I mean, I think a lot of people played D&D and that was it. Especially as the it was the first big success out there, and it came to dominate the marketplace very quickly. Whereas we had, yes, D&D was the first thing through with Games Workshop, but very quickly there was a lot of other stuff. And in the pages of White Dwarf, when you came to the catalogue page, it had equal footing with RuneQuest, Call of Cthulhu. I think that there was just a much wider range of games that were kind of presented as equals, I think. So I think that we probably embraced a wider variety in the early days of the hobby in the UK.
Is it? Because D&D is kind of the American dream, that resonates with that kind of culture.
One day
Call of Cthulhu is the sort of British nightmare of unknowable something class system. If I was clever and full of energy, I could probably.
So I was going to put post-war in there as well.
Yeah, post-war, the post-war, yeah.
And I think from a setting point of view, I think the British Isles, certainly in the 1920s, offer a lot of similar things to kind of the core of Lovecraft, don't you? You still got that kind of isolated communities, and you've got a grand
Empire in decline.
Yeah, exactly, and that grand tradition of weird stuff around the edges and ancient empires and ancient cultures and stuff built up.
Yeah. Yeah, so there is that sense of history, layers of history, isn't there? And things that we could have forgotten. Yeah, I mean, that's certainly in the a lot of the core when we were doing the concepts for the London book as well, is, there's sort of like these layers and layers and layers of things, and who knows what's been buried and forgotten about.
I think that's going to keep the London box is going to keep us busy well into next year, isn't it?
Yeah.
And as part of that, we'll get the World War Cthulhu and Cthulhu Britannica crossover, so that'll take us into the take the setting in a way into 1930s, 1940s.
Yeah.
But then there's also more plans for Cthulhu Britannica in the near future, aren't there?
Yeah, we'll have for the time being, Cthulhu Britannica will run for 1920s stuff, and then World War Cthulhu is going to branch out. We've got the at the moment the Darkest Hour is the World War II setting, and we've got there's a range of supplements that are in the works for that. Then World War Cthulhu will branch out into World War One, Cold War, World War III, and possibly beyond. So I think there's a lot there to keep us busy. There'll be plenty of Cthulhu stuff, and of course the ongoing laundry stuff. There's some great laundry products planned for next year. Looking forward to those. Of course, the novels will keep arriving and delighting us, inspiring us. Anybody else have anything? Yeah? Of course.
Keep going.
On the sort of Cthulhu, I was going to talk about Dragonmeet, about how many years ago, second edition, anticipated at some point. What the systems we're using simply adapted lots of other things to be very, very influential. I was going to ask what it is that distinguishes Cthulhu Britannica and Cthulhu, etc., from Dragon Cthulhu and the edition Call of Cthulhu. And what the different breakdowns of the different Cthulhu books on offer are, and what you think people's levels and the backgrounds.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I'm not as familiar with Trail of Cthulhu, so it's a bit hard to give too much of a sort of a breakdown of that. And I think really what Cubicle 7 brings to any project really is just the total commitment to doing absolutely the best work that we can, and not compromising on the quality of what we're doing. I think we have to be satisfied. I think that it's something that we would be delighted with ourselves. I think we bring the British sensibility to the Cthulhu Britannica range.
I think it's handy to have setting books about British things written by British people. I think that's I sound like some sort of racist, but do you know what I mean? The people that live there, and see it firsthand. I think that's very helpful. It's very difficult to write books about countries you don't live in, when it's setting material and real history. I think it's always a bigger challenge, I think we certainly bring that. Something we were laughing about, and it's a joke, but we were talking earlier on about being dirty purists. I think we're quite purist in like The One Ring is a very purist take on Tolkien. It's not the movie. It's really rooted in the text. And I think we do that with Lovecraft. World War Cthulhu is very trad Cthulhu. It's a horror game, and has all the themes that Lovecraft's work has, rather than being spun off into other areas.
I think that's something that with un-British Bonger and Trumpets, but I think something that as a company we're quite good at. I say quite good. Something we're good at is with the licensed properties and things like that, is really getting into the themes, getting to the guts of it, and making a game that feels like whatever it is we're trying to portray. I mean, I think the Doctor Who game, it feels, it's got the exactly. The get into a conflict, and the talkers go first, followed by the people running away, followed by the people doing cool stuff. Anyone trying anything violent goes last. We did get some flack actually in America for having a section in the book called "Guns Are Bad." So there's another cultural difference between role-playing games. So I think that's something that we do well. In?
On the subject of cultural differences, how do you, what's
Obviously, trying to sell and explain what's British Cthulhu can get to a British person is quite easy, but you actually have to give more information to make it immersive.
Yes. Yeah, I think where appropriate, we try to include cultural notes. I mean, it's a hard thing actually. I think was when you're when you're brought up in a culture, you know all the shorthands, all the references and things like that. So sometimes it's hard to. I'm struggling to think of an example. There have been a few where. Generally, I think we caught them before publication. We thought, hang on a minute, would anybody else, would anybody in outside the UK know what this meant, or what that meant? I think that the other thing not to underestimate as well is the large Anglophile audience in the US particularly that just really laps it up.
So I think certainly with Doctor Who, they like Doctor Who. The Americans like Doctor Who because it's quite quaint and British.
Yeah.
And I think we don't necessarily need to explain beyond that. I think by
Yeah.
we present it exactly as it is.
I mean, we do still get at US conventions people coming up with a list of words they want us to say. Say this in your accent.
I think it's quite nice. I think well, to speak for myself, whenever I go across to the States, I get a huge amount out of the American audience, and it's almost like a fresh audience for what we do in a way, and I think our Britishness is fresh to them, and their Americanness is fresh to us. I love going across there just because, there's a nice sort of feedback of their enthusiasm for what we do and our enthusiasm for their enthusiasm, and it goes round. And
That helps.
Really, really love. I mean, I love the gaming culture over there. It's really inspiring, and it's just good. And I think that somehow I'm struggling to fit that into an answer to the question, but I think that's something to do with it. That there is as Dom said, there's an interest in British things and Britishness, Downton Abbey and Doctor Who, and I think we kind of fit in that mix somewhere.
Yeah.
I think we're just sort of honest in what we do, then it works somehow. Luckily, fingers crossed.
And we do actually. We're not xenophobic, are we? We do actually work with Americans. We have American writers for Doctor Who and everything, and so they kind of keep. But I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't think I've ever been asked an awkward question by one.
No, I don't think so either. We've got how many have we got now? I think we've got three American line developers in Cubicle 7. Yeah, well, I suppose that's something we should talk about as well. Really, I think there's always the naysayers about the health of the industry and stuff like that. But certainly from where we're standing, we've grown enormously over the past 2 years. Both in terms of head count and turnover and everything. It's really looking good. There's rumours of the industry's death. I mean, as always, etc. But
the convention scene in the UK is really healthy. Like Games Expo, going from strength to strength. Dragonmeet is popular as always. And
over the last 2 years, Dragonmeet's grown. I can't remember a percentage off the top of my head, but it's sizable double-digit increase each year. So indications are good, and I think we're seeing the point where anybody that we're going to lose to computer games, because I think that was a big threat, wasn't it, for a while, is that everyone's going to play computer games, and I think that while computer games were developing at a rate of knots, and every year the graphics were like millions of times better than the year before, and they had the stories are much more involving, and the games are a lot more complicated, and all the rest of it. But I think a few years ago that peaked, and any sort of developments there seem incremental now, don't they? I think so. Anybody that we've lost to computer games, we've already lost, and anybody who would go into computer games rather than tabletop gaming, I mean that's been happening for years. So. I'm bullish. I think a lot of those people as well are finding the limits of those other styles of similar or related games, and are coming back for that more social, more authentic kind of experience.
Yeah, people spend a lot of time looking at a screen now, and I think maybe it's not a big sea change that people are moving away from that, but I think people see the benefit of not looking at a screen. The rise of board games, I think is, and I think that's carrying role-playing games a little bit up as well.
It's a natural follow-on as well. I think when you've got a lot of people have got board game groups, and a lot of you wouldn't traditionally seen as gamers. I know I board game with people that would never have thought of themselves as gamers, and I think it's a natural follow-on for a lot of them to just try and pick up something else.
Yeah. I mean, that's certainly something we bear in mind. I mean, one of the reasons why we're very keen to expand our card game and board game offering is because that's another route in. It's another route into the hobby, another route into role playing. It's role playing is so dear to our hearts that it's always going to be a core part of the business. And it's doing really well. So whatever the gaming scene is doing as a whole, and just keep doing it. It's doing well.
On the subject of Americanisms and new stuff, we've talked about one of our new games, which is World War Cthulhu. The other new game we've launched recently is Rocket Age, which is actually a bit more American, isn't it?
Yeah.
Ever so slightly. Even use IZs and all sorts of things.
I know, which is a big departure for us, controversial. That's fantastic. If you ever fancy being a rocket ranger with a jetpack flying around the solar system, that's the game for you.
It's 1930s pulp. With colonisation of Mars and Venus and all sorts of things, and the Earthlings discovering they're not the only aliens in the solar system, and it's just good fun. And we've released the core book at.
And the first astronaut is Einstein, as it should be.
With Tesla, I think.
With Tesla,
they land their rocket ship on Mars. Yeah, and we've been releasing quite a few kind of short episodes for that online. Downloadable episodes. And we're just about to launch our first source book for that, which is Blood Red Mars, and it's just good fun. It's proper two-fisted adventures, isn't it?
Yep.
I think that's something we'll see more of. That's kind of our new style for the end of 2013, 2014 is Rocket Age, just out in stores. The first supplement is just about to come off presses. There's a bunch of PDF adventures that will be coming out. They're done and they'll be coming out. And so there's going to be a lot of support straight away, which hopefully will roll across all our lines, And I think we've got the team now to do that. I think previously we've been known for being quite good at what we do, but quite slow. Whereas now I think we're seeing.
I don't think people will be able to level that charge at us next year. I think it's looking ahead at what we'h got planned, and there's an awful lot.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is our hostage to fortune.
Yes, sorry, I should touch words quickly.
Spin round anti-clockwise. We're maturing as a company as well, and I think that's got a lot to do with it, isn't it? I think we've got some fantastic team in place now, and things are doing
exciting.
Well. Yeah, absolutely. Any other questions?
Yeah, just a quick question in relation to the level adventure. You mentioned it as something that you'd be aiming at the younger gamers as an introductory type product. As such, what kind of format would that take? And also, how my experience of RPGs at the moment is community selling to itself. If you go into the average bookshop, it's not something you will necessarily find on the shelf.
Yeah.
If it's aimed at a new gamer, how will you reach them?
Okay, cool. Good question. For format first, it's a box set. It'll have really something that immerses you in the setting straight away. So we were looking at that sort of like getting across what it is to be a Kai novice in the monastery, and a solo sort of introductory, as well as the full rules and the GM's case, GM's advice and stuff like that. As far as getting it in front of new people, I think that you've still got obviously the hobby stores is the primary outlet that we have, and I think that there's having a product in retail that they can with confidence hand to a younger person, or somebody who's not experienced in role playing at all, and knowing that you'll get this and you'll be able to run with it. That's going to be big. I mean, we've made it's something we're looking to replicate in the UK. We've got into book trade in the States, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, and Hastings, and places like that. And that ties into, certainly with something like Doctor Who, I think at conventions, we're predominantly we're selling Doctor Who to teenagers. It's great. It's exactly what we're aiming to do. And that was something again at the Doctor Who event that we sold a lot. We were selling a lot of games to teenagers. I think that there's still some work to do in the UK on the retail presence, and that's something that we'll be putting attention into. I think that there's certainly room to do that, and then it all depends really on the how good a job we can do with the buyers and what the buyers are looking for and things like that. Now with Doctor Who as well, there's different routes through the magazines and things like that that we can start. I mean, we've talked to Doctor Who magazine, for example, before when the box set came out originally, and made a bit in there. And SFX as well. They've run a fair amount of stuff for us in the past, which has been fantastic. And it's really just leveraging everything like that we have. I think that we've got the thing that we have in the UK as well. Obviously, is the Games Workshop hobby, and that helps to identify people who are going to be into this sort of thing for us. So I think that there's still some work to do, I think, is the short answer. But as we've seen in the States, we're seeing in conventions, it's definitely something that we can do.
It was interesting at PAX East we went to this year, and it's a very, very different crowd to say, for example, the crowd we would see at Gen Con. It's a much younger audience, the gender balance is almost neutral, and a very, just a fresh audience, and it makes you realise that people are out there, that want to play the kind of games we make. I think there's also quite which I won't go into in great detail, there's quite a long, boring answer to do with things like our Doctor Who card game has gone into more mainstream outlets, and that proves that we can provide something that stores can sell. And it's not an instant, your card game sold, so we'll sell your role-playing games. It doesn't work like that. It's a very long, boring, involved process to do with distribution and things like that. But we've been working on that for probably 2 years now, And it's not going to be a case of, I think last year in some of the panels we heard, get games into Smiths. It's not quite like you could just ruin your company doing that very, very easily, because the terms of business and so on, and the types of customer you'll find and in those locations, and if they're ready for the sort of things, And I understand the desire to do that. Why isn't there a magazine and so on, But by I said I wouldn't go on at length. It's quite boring, but it's sort of business stuff, But I think there's like you say, Dom says that there are ways and means to build it. It's not necessarily going to change overnight, but I think there's more that can be done. And for a company of our size, we could see a good return at the kind of level we're looking to work at,
Yeah.
It's not going to change the world, but it will help a little bit. Hopefully.
Yeah. And I think it's just keeping looking at where people are getting their information from, where so the things like the RPing on Tumblr and stuff like that, there's
the kids are doing it already. If you just like sort of hashtag RP on Tumblr, there are tens, hundreds of thousands of people playing role-playing games that have never encountered what we know as role-playing games. And I think there's things to do to, for us to rejoin that hobby, if you like, rather than try and make them join us. Can we work with them,
There's an audience there, and they're already receptive and open to it, which is half the battle, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just finding the communication channels to them as much as anything, and it's a challenge, but there's something that we're actively pursuing.
Yeah. It's quite exciting, isn't it?
Ooh, got a question from Adam.
Can I just ask a quick question about, more generally about system design, role-playing games? Do you see that as evolving in any way with the influence of Euro board games? There's lots of great character games all the time for that, but the role-playing game seems to be there's a passion for more storytelling elements in the system, things like that. Do you see any other sort of evolution in role-playing mechanics? As I presume it's something you have to think about every time you get the new audience to go over what you say about these games.
Another good question. I think, I definitely think there's room for. With the Euro games, what I see with that is you're looking at clever, elegant mechanics, bringing in a bit more intuition and things like that. And I think that we've definitely got room. And that's something that we talk about a fair amount. Is just increasing that level of elegance that you've got. decreasing the amount of reference, but while not losing the subtleties and the complexities. And I think probably the Lone Wolf game will be an interesting one to see how well we pull that off in that. So it was something that's accessible on the top level, but still has all of those intricacies and lets you reflect a nuanced character in a mechanical way. I think that we'll see more of the meshing with the story game and narrative elements. I think that it's interesting, isn't it? I've always wondered whether we'd see more of a movement away from traditional D&D style stuff, kind of diverging off in a kind of like a descent route, where that does become the default is more of a tile laying miniatures experience, which possibly, I don't know, I think for me probably does that better than a dungeon crawling role playing game does. So it's interesting to see, but elegance and good associated design is what we're looking for. There's one over here. Yes, I'm sure there will be. It's now we've Nightfall Games are looking after Slay stuff now. We had an involvement up until about 2010, I think.
Yeah, it's a bit about right, isn't it?
2010, 2011.
Yeah.
So we were basically licensing Slay from Nightfall. And then the circumstances of the people involved in Nightfall changed, and they had a bit more time, so they took Slay back in-house, they did some great stuff. They did some data packets for it was Undersheets 2, so they introduced a load of great new Hunter sheets for players. And they've got a couple of things on the go, I think.
Yeah, still working. I speak to Dave Alsop most days because he's just a friend. We're both up in Scotland, and he's still working on stuff. Yeah. Well, can't say any more on that because he'll get all upset.
The secret plan.
Yeah, they're still working on it, but not with us anymore.
Yeah, so the answer is we hope so, because we like Slay.
We do, yes.
Yeah. About time, I think.
To time, aren't we?
Thank you all for coming, and enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you.